Good morning. Good morning. It's good to be back. We had a wonderful vacation, and how many enjoyed Reverend Joy last week? Wasn't she awesome? I've heard her speak many times, but last Sunday was, I think, directly from the heart, don't you think? And it has actually, since January, begun a whole kind of movement within Unity. Jim Blake, the new CEO, is embracing this whole notion of radical wholeness. And it's really going to be interesting to see what transpires in all of Unity as we begin to take another look at what wholeness and fulfillment mean in the Unity movement. Before I get started today, I wanted to say a special thanks to Jeff and Arlene. Yesterday, the wall is finished. Yay, Jeff. It takes a village sometimes to get it all together, but thank you for all that. In a moment, I want to talk about this for a second, but I want to talk quickly about the Thanksgiving Love in Action. We have committed to $500, and Pastor Leah brought her group of folks together, and there's 5 of us coming from Unity of Harrisburg to help on Thanksgiving Day, to not only package everything, but to deliver to 200 homeless in Harrisburg. And it's an amazing thing when you think about for $500 we can feed 200 people a whole Thanksgiving fixins. And that was the minimum, and if more comes in this week and next week, we can obviously reach out to more folks. I got to tell you, Jack and I were in Harrisburg not too long ago, and we found the tent city under the bridges, and I was just blown away with what's happening right here in Harrisburg, and kind of tucked away, unknown and unspoken of. And I'm so excited that we have an opportunity here as a community. Carol Howard is kind of heading this up, and you're going to see more opportunities rolling out over the next year. When we can feed people a Thanksgiving meal for $2.50, that's the kind of organization I think we want to be connected with. So I'm really excited about this program, things we're going to see at Christmas, and also what's coming. Now, speaking of opportunities here, we don't have enough people for one Sunday for fellowship hour. And in the conversation with Barbara and also with Mary, one thing we are not going to do here is continue to tax people who are already serving and ask them to double up, because that's the way you burn out folks very quickly. So again, as we're moving to a community-centered spiritual center, this is going to be your decision. If no one wants to cover this time, I said to Barbara and Mary, then what we're going to do is have fellowship on 3 Sundays. We have enough right now to continue it for 3. So if it's something that fits for you, I think service should be joyful and not a burden. And so if it's something that fits for you and you want to keep it open that 4th Sunday, please see Mary in the next week or 2, because we're going to very quickly have to make a decision. Sometimes you're called as a minister to tread where angels won't go. And this next 4 weeks, I have a little bit of a feeling of that. I've been warned already before I even started that you're going to make some folks very nervous here. And I said, well, I guess that needs to be. When I went to the Eastern region, end of September, I was beginning to do my end of the year contemplation, evaluation of myself, and also my job and Unity of Harrisburg. And where are we? What's happening? What do I want out of my personal life? What do I want to get rid of? What do I want to add to? All looking to move towards that opportunity that comes here at the end of the year of releasing it into the fire. And one of the subjects that kept coming up was this whole notion of money. And money is such an interesting conversation in a spiritual center, in Unity. When I was doing the Holy Money workshops and going to unities all over, I would always ask, well, tell me how money fits into what you do. And I would hear almost 9 out of 10 times, well, you know, prosperity and abundance means a lot more than just money. And I would hear that over and over again. And it's almost this hidden exclusion of. And I would say to myself, well, why isn't it abundance and prosperity includes money? But it was a very hidden, subtle lack that was a belief system that I began to see. And in this, I'm sitting, and well, Darla was there, I was sitting there, and I knew Jackie Woodside from my days in Massachusetts. She was one of the most dynamic board presidents of Unity on the River in Amesbury when it just became this phenomenal growth story in Unity. Her and Reverend Shipley were kind of the two that made it happen. And when I was there as guest speaker, she had already moved to DC, so I never met her personally, but I knew who she was. I spent 2 hours with her about money. And I was so convicted in that workshop that I was like, yes, this is exactly, Spirit has brought this exactly at the time when I'm asking all these questions. So I go to see Jackie immediately afterwards and said, here's what I want to do. And I said, well, how much is it, what's your speaking fee? She said, well, my speaking fee right now in the corporate world is $5,000 a speech. I said, oh boy. Oh, wow. It was a really good idea I had. And as I began to talk to her and we emailed back and forth, and I said to her, well then, here's this next best thing I can do is I can take your brand new book and we're going to break it up into talks on a Sunday. And, you know, it'll be all around what you're teaching because what she taught is exactly the work that I've been doing and Jacqueline's been doing for the last 8 years around money. And so she's like, well, that's cool. And I said, can I use all your materials? And she actually sent me images that we can use as part. We're going to be using the PowerPoint. Got really excited. And then one day I get this email from her and she said, you know, I'm so excited about what you're doing and what Unity Harrisburg's headed into. How about if I come and be a guest speaker on Sunday at the end and then do a 2-hour workshop? I said, for $5,000? And I was just, that was my question to the email, and it came back and she said, no, I want to do this for whatever your standard procedure is. So we're already abundant because we aren't paying $5,000, trust me. We're paying what we pay every guest speaker. But I'm so excited about where this is headed, and I think for those of you who want to join in, this can be an amazing journey over the next 4 or 5 weeks. And I was so taken this week in preparing for this. In the Old Testament, one of the prophets was told by God and said, it just takes 10 righteous people to save the city. And I began to, righteousness means in the Bible, right thinking. And I thought that's what it takes here in the middle of central Pennsylvania. It takes 10 right-thinking people about money in a spiritual sense, and we can make changes here that no one can even dream of. And we're already making that change because we booked Jackie Woodside and she's going to be here in not too many weeks. So this study for the next 4 weeks is coming directly out of the book. I'll show you that in a minute. It is in the bookstore. But Jackie's a TEDx speaker. She's training corporations all over the country. She's got amazing clientele coming out of DC. When I was with her down in New Jersey, one of her clients was with Richard Branson on his private Caribbean island. And I said, I'd like to go do that. And she said, so would I. So that's the level of people that she's dealing with right now in the country around this whole notion of money vibe or money consciousness. She's the founder of the curriculum Conscious Living. She's a powerhouse. If you don't believe me, ask Darla. Darla was there for the 2 hours. It was a wonderful time. And I got an email from her last week and she said, you know what's interesting? Unity of Harrisburg is the only one out of all those people in the Eastern region that I spoke to that have me coming. So I'm so thrilled with what's happening here and to see what's happening. This is the book, the second edition, The Money Vibe, and it's broken up into 4 factors. We're going to talk about factor number 1 today. and then we're going to add to it. So it's going to look like this. Awareness today, your vibe or your consciousness. Your beat stands for your beliefs, your emotions, your attitudes, and your thoughts. And finally, focus and desire. And we put together very quickly Tuesday nights right after this. So this Tuesday, we're going to do the money awareness. And out of this, my intention is looking for 10 or more righteous people who want to hold a whole new money consciousness, not only in their personal life, but also at Unity of Harrisburg and for Central Pennsylvania. I want to go bigger in our whole concept and what's happening and what we just saw on Thanksgiving. You're going to see this. We just finished this in time for layout for Natural Awakening. This is the ad that's going to run. It'll be out the last week of November and the first week of December. So my hope is that we're opening to the community. We did a lot of research around the whole idea of money consciousness versus money vibe, making it a Sunday. I see this as an opportunity. If you have friends or family that the issue around money is something that they're dealing with, it's a great time to invite them in. And I'm hoping that in the workshop, and if you can see on there, the workshop's going to be the Sunday, the 8th of December. Jackie will be our guest speaker, and then we're going to follow up from 12 to 2 with back here in the sanctuary with her Money Vibe Power Pack workshop. You will leave changed, I promise you. What I love about Jackie is Jackie lived this story. I think it was 1987, she was homeless. And that's the kind of people I'm attracted to, those people who do it and can explain how to, because they lived it. It's not just some theory that we'll write in a book. So, in some of the conversations that I have, and I just want to challenge you, welcome you, I guess. If you're hearing resistance in your mind right now about this, or I've been there, done this kind of stuff, I just welcome you to open your mind to say, what else can I learn that can help me, and that can help this spiritual community, and that can help the community in the neighborhood area. Following Jackie, I'm going to do another 40-day email journey for those who sign up out of Tuesdays and whatnot. And we're going to do 40 days every morning. You're going to wake up to another Raising Our Money Consciousness email from me. And then finally, on Sunday, 2/2/2020, I'm going to do my Holy Money workshop in the afternoon. That's been modified to teach very specifically a process on how to grow your money. Now, a quick story. I've been trading stocks since I was 13. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I walked away from it when I started the ministerial journey, and I just said I need to focus, because that had been my focus my whole life. And about a year ago, I came to Jacqueline and I said, I'm hearing Spirit speak to me about I need to get back into the market. And she's always been so supportive, and she said, we'd take our time, and she came back and she said, I'm hearing the very same thing, get going. And so one of my things with Spirit was, if I do this again, I want to be able to do it with the way I program a trading strategy that I can teach everyone who has no financial background. And over the last year, that has developed, and what's so interesting is there's amazing new changes that happen in the industry with tax laws. The latest one is there's zero commissions. It's allowed us now to have a level playing field with the boys and girls on Wall Street. And that's what this whole thing is about. And I'll share just briefly where it is. And so that's going to be the end result of this in February. I will tell you this. I don't believe you can do February 2nd unless you do the work to get there. Because it's in the change of consciousness that we open up to new possibilities. It's in the change of consciousness that we open up to unlimited potential of the quantum field. And that's what I believe this is all about, and going to a whole new step. The Holy Money Seminar is built around Albert Einstein's compounding is the eighth wonder of the world. And what he's talking about here is when you compound money on top of money, and compound money on top of money, And as you can see what he says, those who understand how to do it will earn it, those who don't will pay it. So it's the difference between growing assets and paying debt. And that's the whole part of this. What I'm going to teach is this system that I have developed. And again, it's due to changes in the industry that we've never been able to do this stuff before. And you can see where I have the circles is where I bought, where I sold over the last 3 months. The markets always move. They have to move for the players to make money. And all we're doing now is align ourselves with the big money. And the returns are unbelievable. So do the work to get there, because the end result of this, I want 10 righteous people with a whole new thought around money for themselves and for Unity at Harrisburg. This was a gentleman I studied with a long time ago, Tony Robbins. And he actually ended up being one of my greatest spiritual mentors. And I walked on fire with him at one of his retreats that he had. But he said 2 things that have helped mold where I'm going with this whole process. Number 1 is your past doesn't equal your future. Only if you let it. And we're not going to let it. We're not going to let our past around money equate to our future. We're going to change our consciousness. We're going to change it in a massive way. And the second thing he taught me early on, 25 years ago, which is the way I approach everything. If you want change, you have to take massive determined action. And this program, I believe, is massive determined action between now and 2020. And we're going to see success at a level we've never seen before. This always works. And so many times we just stick our big toe in and go, well, let me try. No, this is about jumping in full bore and taking massive, massive action. And in 90 days, we're going to see a big change. So Jacob Needleman, in his book about money and the meaning of life, says this: money is the main force of human life at our present stage of civilization. Is that true? For the world? For society? We don't like it to be. But when you look at the amount of time and energy and thoughts that you spent this last month, tells you where the primary stage of civilization for you is. And when I look back on this last year, and the notion around money that we talked about here was never about success. It was never about thriving. It was always on the other side of the equation. And so what Jackie does here, which I really like, is begin to change that for us. And she says this: if you could think about money in this moment as a person in your life that you have a relationship with, what kind of relationship is that? Is it a healthy one? Is it one that's in anxiety and fear and worry? We get to choose that. So what kind, and that is a beginning to ask that question, is what kind of relationship do I have with money? Where does it fit in my belief systems? We're going to talk a whole chapter on the beat, belief, emotions, attitudes, and thinking. But it all starts here. If I could think of a person, money being as a person, what kind of relationship is that? And we need to begin to understand that, because only in that understanding can we make the next step. What do you think about money? How do you feel about it? What do you say about it? What's your primary beliefs when you talk about it? And you're going to see here in this first chapter that Jackie provides us some tools. You know, coaching lingo is self-assessment. Assess yourself so that you can begin to see what's true for you. We have so much stress around money. It's so intense because we've tied our survival into money, have we not? I mean, we don't have saber-toothed tigers chasing us around anymore. But we have that same system built within us, right? And so it's like, oh, and money becomes the issue around survival. And when we tie those two together, we have tied money into a very stressful place for us. There's many hidden fears, worries, and anxieties in the subconscious about the lack or the loss of money. We go back to the teaching we've had over the last year. You and I were trained in money before we were 7, were we not? We were taught what to believe or not to believe by what we saw in our parents or those around us. And that was all planted in the subconscious, and unless we take massive action to change it, it will continue to manifest itself round and round through life. You know, I have a favorite saying in coaching: emotions buried alive never die. They just show up in another pair of shoes, do they not? Our issue around money or lack of it, or worry or anxiety, will show up in another way. Or we'll sabotage ourselves. When I look back at my own career, I saw myself sabotage myself every time I hit a certain level in salary. It's like I get promoted, I do this in this company, boom, I hit this level. I was like, what happened to that? It was going so well. It was my own worthiness that said I wasn't worth more than that. And so every time I would hit it, bang, hit it, bang, until I began to change it. So as in any time in stress, what do? Fight, flight, or freeze? Because when stress shows up, we do one of those three unless we know better. And when we have issues and drama and negativity around the stress of survival, which is tied to money, one of those is going to show up, probably. Even though you're not maybe consciously aware of it, each one of us has our own money story. Do we not? You have a story about how much you're worth, how much you're worthy of. I'll tell you a quick story. Jack and I took my 86-year-old mother on vacation to Lewis, Delaware. And she did really well. Well, one day she did well, next day not so well. Well, it was kind of where she is right now with vascular dementia. But one of the things that stuck out to me, and I said to Jacqueline after we dropped her off, I said, now I understand why I've had to work so hard around the whole idea of worthiness and money. And it's these subtle, we saw this incredible yacht. I said, man, look at that yacht that guy has. Just another rich man's toy. And I was like, wow, no, man, if he can afford to have a yacht and a captain and a crew, go for it. And it was like this smacked up against my childhood, the things that I was taught from the time I was 7. And it just kept exposing itself through the process. It's like, now I understand why it's been such a work and such a thing that I had to stay consistently aware of, because it's so deeply implanted from all of that. In your money story, is money external or is it an internal event? Is it out there or is it inside you? This is all key as we began to do the self-assessment and the self-analysis. Jackie has an amazing quote in here I'm going to show you very quickly that I just love it, and it really rings so true. So what is money from a spiritual perspective? So where am I going to go? I'm going to go to the Bible for the authority on this. The silver is mine and the gold's mine, says God. What was silver and gold 4,000 years ago? Money, was it not? So what he's saying here is all the money's mine. So how in the world have we got this thing that it's spiritual when we don't have money? That is so cattywampus to the teaching. It's all mine. We cannot have allness if we exclude money. That is not allness. That's allness minus money. That's what everybody was saying to me about prosperity and abundance. Well, you know it means a whole lot more than money. No, that's saying that it is not included in allness. Let's see what else he said. Fear not, it's my greatest pleasure in the universe to give you, my children, all of the money. Why didn't they teach that? Why hasn't that been taught? Because it's true. And finally this. The master teacher Jesus said 2,000 years ago, I have come that you and I may have life and we have it more abundantly. That's what it says. How did we get it so screwed up around the concept of money? And not be willing to talk about it and not be willing to say, wait a minute, I believe that's true. Look, we can talk for a long time about tithing. And Jacqueline and I, we've talked about it. I'm a total believer in tithing. 5 years ago, I had credit cards maxed out because we were going to Unity Village and Unity Detroit and paying for it when I didn't have a job to pay for it. And we decided that day that we would tithe 10% of everything that came in our household, no matter where it came from. Birthday gifts, IRS returns, 10% of every dollar came in when we couldn't afford it. I can tell you today we're sitting here now with no debt. And we're paying, except a mortgage. And I'm paying the mortgage, we're paying the mortgage off fast because I want to be out of that debt. But that happened because here's what tithing is to me. It's my way of showing trust for that truth. It's putting my money where my mouth is. And I say, absolutely, I believe that. And a tithe for me is 10%. And everything that comes in this household goes out. True? True. And I can't tell you, if I would open up the books and show you what has happened over 5 years to us, in this past year, our net worth went up more in percentage than ever in my life. You've got to show trust. You can't talk about it. You have to do it. And then things begin to change. Well, like what's just happened this past year with the trading system. Money is not an effect. Money is an effect. It's not a cause. We treat it as a cause. I'm worried because I have lack of money. That's not true. You're worried for some other reason because you choose to worry. Money is not a cause. Money is an effect. And what's it effect of? Its effect, I'll use Unity language here, or Charles Fillmore language, is divine substance. We get to experience God, the allness, in spirit and truth. The spirit behind the manifestation of the physical money is divine substance. It manifests as money in our society today. 5,000 years ago, it was in cattle and gold and silver, and 5 years from now, it may be in bitcoins. Who knows? But it's not the physical that we're talking about here, so we've got to get back in touch with the divine substance, the spirit of it, and let that flow. Let's go on. Many of us have connected this inner state to the external state. I've talked about that. I'm worried because I don't have enough money. No, you worry because you chose to worry. And worrying about not having enough money brings what to you? More not enough money. So as we begin to change the consciousness, we begin to trust the belief of what we're told is true, we will see that whole thing begin to shift for us. And that's what I'm talking about for 10 good people as we move through. Our job, as Jackie says, is to master money by mastering our inner money story. We have to change the dialogue that's been placed in our database since we were 7. And the only person who can change that for you is you. I can't change it, God can't change it. You and I have to change that whole narrative around money that you and I have submitted into our subconscious. And here's a good place to start. Decide on your definition of financial freedom. What does it mean for you to be financially free? This is a question most of us have never entertained because we didn't allow ourselves to go there and dream and believe and have hope and trust. Jackie says this is hers. My definition of financial freedom is never having to worry about money, whether you have it or not. That's a good definition. Mine is I never want to have to work a job to live. I want to work because I love it. And that to me is financial freedom. And I have all the intention in the world to achieve it. Jackie goes on to say this: money becomes part of your spiritual expression when you realize that everything in the universe is comprised of energy. That's the effect and the cause again. Another way to say it. Stay focused on cause. The effects will show up. Have any of you ever heard this? I know in central Pennsylvania, around Unity, Harrisburg, you won't hear these, I know. I hope. Money is the root of all evil. Money can't buy happiness. Money isn't everything. It's not about the money. Money doesn't matter to me. Oh, really? You know what? Our brain doesn't see the not, right? So when you're saying that, if you are, it's saying money matters to me. That's what your subconscious is hearing. Where's the positive in this? Where's the success in this? Where is, yes, we can thrive and still be spiritual? Oh my gosh. That's a unique idea. So what Jackie says here, which I like, she said, look, we need to have a common understanding because there's so much baggage around this money, around this idea of money. And so this is the way she describes it. I relate to money as a tool. Get rid of all of the cultural and emotional baggage and look at the tool that can come into your life and be used for a lot more good. Great understanding of another level of looking at money. And I think this is one of the key things she says in this whole first factor one. We must create a vibrant, healthy relationship with this thing called money. And most of us do not have it. We have to relearn it. And what did we learn in Eric Butterworth's, or in the very beginning, chapter 1? The greatest part of what we're doing in education is let go of what we already know. And this is the relearning of a whole new relationship around money. This is a quote that I love, and I've been using it ever since I read this in the book. You cannot change what you cannot or are unwilling to see. We heard Reverend Joy say last Sunday, all of us want to be transformed, but nobody wants to be changed. Right? What Jackie's saying here is you can't change or transform anything if you're not willing to see what's actually happening for you. And no one else can see it but you. Anybody ever done this around money? Look at the bullseye that's sitting up for you. Denial, distress, denial. We go into denial. We shove the bills into the eye. If I don't look at it, they'll go away. No, they don't. The interest just keeps growing. You're using what Einstein said against you. And then we get ourselves somehow out of it, whatever the bind is, and then we go, oh, denial again. Then distress. And denial and distress. I get worn out looking at that picture and just saying it. This is not the way the child of God is to live. We're to live in abundance, and joy, and peace, and harmony. And that only happens as we begin to change the consciousness around this thing called money. You've heard this from me many times. Again, my other spiritual mentor was Albert Einstein. I love his quotes. Insanity. We live in insanity around money. We keep doing what we're always doing and say, oh my God, it's going to change this year. No, it is not. You're living in insanity. The only thing that will change it if you change your consciousness. And over the next couple of weeks, we're going to work on it. Jackie says this, what's so important for you and I is your commitment to change. How important is it for you? Napoleon Hill, in the book that I read when I was 16 of Think and Grow Rich, says, you have to have a burning desire. You have to have a burning desire to want to change your thoughts and your emotions and your feelings around a concept. If not, you will continue to repeat year after year after year, and next thing you know, 10 years go by. Ask yourself, do I have the burning desire to change? Do you? And if not, get it. Because it's the only way you're going to change around anything, but especially around money, because there's so much baggage around money. You know what's so interesting? Charles Fillmore didn't want anything to do with prosperity and abundance and unity. Of course, it was Myrtle who was the forerunner. She got it. But in the beginning, she didn't want either. She was focused on physical health. But what started to happen is she changed her consciousness. The money went up. Charles, here's my take on Charles. Charles has been bankrupt 3 times. He had a lot more stuff to deal with. And a lot more worthiness issues. And why did I make it so much money and then lose it all? And you can imagine what he had to work through. But eventually he got it. But it seems like the natural progression is we work on physical health and then wealth begins to come. And I believe that's because we have so much baggage around the idea of money. So here's the steps Jackie gives us in the first one. Get an MVP. I think this is so important. I have an amazing MVP. My Money Vibe partner is Jackie. And this conversation has changed our whole dialogue. We both went through the 30-day Money Vibe. It's in the book, free from Jackie. And we finished it last Sunday. And the conversations we had about stuff, and the conversation I had with myself about things that were stuck away in my subconscious that I wasn't even aware of, has freed me at a level that I have not before. And I'm so grateful for it. Make use of it. It's free for you. 30 days. But get an MVP, someone you can have these honest, open conversations with, that you can do the work that you have to do out of the book. So you have an accountability partner. You have someone who'll be there when you don't want to show up on Wednesday. Says, yeah, come on. This is important. We can make this happen. So number 1, get an MVP. Number 2, take the financial satisfaction inventory on page 59 of the book. This inventory takes you through all the major segments around money. You will find the truth about what you believe if you're willing to be honest and do the work. Remember, you cannot change what you're not willing to see. And as you begin to go through this, and it's one of those circles we've all seen in coaching assessment wheels, but when you go actually begin to put the dots in there and you see it and it's like, wow, I got a lot of work in these 2 areas. Comes right off the page. And finally, step number 3 is do the financial fitness assessment, pages 72, 73. There you're going to find out where you are today with where you would like to be. And it gives you a structure, a format to begin to dream bigger, to play bigger, and say, what if I was willing to do that? What if I was willing to do this? And it begins to expand the process that you're going through around money. Jackie put this in the book, so I made it into a stop sign. Stop. Don't go any further until you do the work. Really. Or don't waste your money on the book. Or don't show up this Tuesday night. Don't come to the holy money thing because it ain't going to work. If you're not willing, stop, she says, and I so mean this. Don't go any further until you're willing to do the assessment and look at what's deeply hidden there around this concept. Jackie finishes it with this: knowledge never ever changes your life. It only fills books. Big books. Doesn't change a thing. The only thing will ever change anything in your and my life is if we apply the knowledge. And the way for you this week, if you want to join in, be one of the 10 or more, I hope, is do this work in the first factor. Do the assessment. Get a feel for what's holding you back. Because only when you begin to see it can we begin to change. Your ascension to financial freedom begins with awareness. This first chapter. And let's start to work this week. Those who want to join, we'll start on Tuesday. We're going to go deep and higher and committed, because in 90 days we are going to change our consciousness. Let's go to silence, please. Just take a couple deep breaths. What I invite you is just to feel any resistance that's coming up. Don't engage it. Just look at it. Ask yourself, this resistance that I'm feeling, is it worth it not to go to another level in money consciousness? And something about resistance and negativity when it comes up in our consciousness, if we simply look at it, don't talk to it, don't engage it, don't argue, just be aware, it falls away because it has no power of its own. It's just some thoughts coming up out of your mind. And allow yourself to go deeper within, to that divinity within you, that divine love. And just for a moment, allow yourself to dream. What would it be like if I did the work and allowed my money consciousness to grow, to double, and empower and positive understanding? What would that do to my life? What would it do to how I feel about me? Now I'm going to ask you to be really bold and dream big. Massive, determined action. What would my life be if it was 10 times greater? What would I feel? How many people could I help in a way that I can't today? Dream big. Take massive, concerted, directed action. And it starts in your mind with your willingness to go big. And so it is.